What's up everybody, my name is Tara and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about me giving birth at 15. Let's get on with the video. So this is like my first sit-down video, so it's a little weird. Please don't judge. Okay, so I started having contractions around 3:36 in the morning on August 28th. And I had them for about an hour. And then I call my sister into the room, and then I sit there for another hour with her, just sitting through the contractions. And then I finally get my mom, and she's like, oh my God, like, we need to get to the hospital now, freaking out. And I'm like, okay, like, let me call my doctor first. So it's about 5 in the morning, and I call my doctor, and he says, yeah, like, go for it. You can go to the hospital if you want. So I straightened my hair because I'm extra. And I was gonna curl it, but my mom was like in a rush. So we go to the hospital, and I'm still having my contractions, like they're getting more painful. And then we get to the hospital, and they check me in, they do all that stuff, and they wanted to see how many centimeters dilated I was to see if I needed to be admitted. We get checked in, and I get admitted because I was 3 centimeters dilated, and it's about 6 something at that point. And I'm still taking down my contractions even though I don't need to. But yeah, so my sister's with me, and I chose my sister to be with me because she just makes me feel like super comfortable, and that's what I was more comfortable with. So I get admitted, I get my blood drawn, which by the way I hate because I just hate needles. I hate needles, okay? And they're asking you, it's very overwhelming actually, because they ask you like a bunch of questions, just like about your pregnancy, how you're doing, like if you want to give your child shots and stuff like that. So definitely be prepared to be bombarded with questions when you're about to give birth, because it's gonna happen. Yeah, so they end up admitting me, as I've already said like 10 times. And so we go to the room. It's actually like super nice. I really liked it. And I was like in a wheelchair the entire time because they would not let me like walk, which was super annoying. But anyway, we go into the room, and I'm having worse contractions. It's not to the point where I wanted to get pain medicine yet. So around 7 something, we're just chilling in the room. They get me water, they get me situated. You know, I'm already hooked up to all the machines. They take my blood pressure a couple of times, and they keep checking how dilated I am, which, if you don't know, I hate cervix checks because they hurt. You know, like it's not fun. Yeah, it hurts. So, not to scare anybody, by the way, but it hurts. So I was getting my cervix checked, and I was about probably 4 centimeters dilated. So to speed things up, they wanted to give me Pitocin in my IV, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And before the Pitocin though, I was bouncing on my ball. I 100% suggest to anybody who's about to give birth, I completely suggest about asking them if they have a ball and bouncing on it, because it really does help with the contractions. And being like in a bed and just stuck there, I know at least for me, it wasn't that fun, and it hurt more for me to be laying down than it did to be being more active. So then I ended up getting some pain medication because at a certain point my contractions got super bad. But the pain medicine, just letting you guys know, it only lasts for a couple hours. So try and get your sleep then, because you're not gonna be sleeping for a while after that. Yeah, so it lasted a couple hours, and then that's when the contractions really started hitting me, and everything got really bad. They ended up breaking my water like soon after that, when I was about 7 centimeters dilated. I ended up getting the epidural. Now, for those of you who know me, I am petrified of needles, like I mentioned in the beginning. But the epidural is a large needle that goes into your spine. So you can see why I was very nervous. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the epidural, it did hurt. And to be fair though, the anesthesiologist did super good for me because I was kind of like moving around a lot, and you really, like, I cannot stress this to you enough, you have to stay still. You have to stay still. Like, you have to be like hunched over, like your head like to your chest, and scrunched over, and make sure your shoulders are like down, and it's so uncomfortable. Yeah, it was just not fun. I get poked twice because I like moved the first time, which isn't good because I could have gotten paralyzed. And I did feel like a really bad, like, tingly, cramping sensation in my right leg while he was like putting it in me. But long story short, I did get it done, and I don't regret it. It was definitely like the right decision to get the epidural, because if I had not gotten the epidural, it would have made my life so much harder, because at that point the contractions had gotten so freaking bad that I could not bear it anymore. I was screaming, oh, not even screaming, I was almost screaming, but like I was in pain. Yeah, I didn't want to be like rude to my sister or anything, or rude to the nurses, so I'm very glad that I got the epidural, because after birth, once I get on that topic, it definitely helped me for that. So after the epidural, I'm sleeping and I wake up again because, you know, the nurse keeps like checking in. At that point, I had been like 9 centimeters dilated, and so they put the green ball that you saw in my last video in between your legs, and that just helps things like speed up the process, like go quicker. And it's very uncomfortable because while you're having the contractions and stuff, like, you can't like feel them, but you know, you're hooked up to all the machinery, and then you know there's like a big ball in between your legs. It's not fun. Yeah, so the nurse comes in and she's like, okay, you're still like 9 centimeters dilated, like can't start pushing yet, but like I felt the pressure, okay? Even though you get the epidural, you still feel the pressure down there. I knew right then and there that I needed to push, okay? Like, well, my body was feeling it. So she was like, okay, if you're still feeling this way in like a couple of minutes, like I'll come back in. Still felt that way in a couple of minutes. So I had my sister call the nurse back in, like, okay, like she feels like she's ready, that she needs to push. And so the nurse came back in and checked me, and she was like, okay, we can start doing a few practice pushes, which thank God, because I needed to get that baby out of me, okay? So it's all kind of like a blur now, but I did a few practice pushes, okay? And I knew like that baby was coming out soon. At that point, I had been in 15 hours of labor, and I know that sounds like a lot, but it genuinely, it went by pretty quick for what it was. Like, I did not feel like I was having contractions for 15 hours straight. So don't be worried about all of that. I'm sure, and I know like other people had it like way worse than I did, but you know, 15 hours of labor, it's not fun, but it went pretty quick. So I'm pushing, and usually they have you do like, it's during a contraction, by the way, they have you do like 3 pushes, but I was just ready to get him out of me. I gave them 4 pushes each round because I could not. I really could not just sit there with that pressure. Yeah, even like the nurses said that I did like really good, because a lot of people get tired, and I was tired, believe me, but I just knew that I could give them 1 more, and that made it so much quicker because I was only pushing for 30 minutes. And to some people it's like, whoa, but no, some people will be pushing for a couple hours, and I was not about to push for a couple of hours because that pressure, I'm telling you, it hurts. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but birth, it really is as bad as like people make it out to be. Like, it really freaking hurts, okay? It's just a huge pressure. Like, imagine taking your worst poop and then that happening out of your hoo-ha. But yeah, so we did have a little bit of complications though. His shoulder ended up getting stuck, and then the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, and when he came out, he wasn't crying at first, and I was like super worried, and they're like trying to attend to me. They put him on my chest for like a second, but he wasn't breathing, so they took him over to the little weighing machine, like bed area, and within like 20 seconds they got him to start breathing. Yeah, so I wasn't like too worried about it, but I was like after that, obviously, but I was really worried about my child. And then once he started crying, my sister looks over at me, is like, oh my gosh, like he's so handsome, and I'm like kind of like tearful because she like is tearful. And I know a lot of people say like they cry at first. I didn't like cry, but I was still like, it was just such a surreal moment. I was in shock that I had just given birth. Right above you, they have a mirror if you really want to see yourself giving birth, but I personally did not. But right above you, there's kind of like a transparent light, and you could see, you know, I could see myself, and I could see down there. So once I heard him crying, I was like, okay, like I'm ready to attend to the doctors that are attending to me. I ended up having 2nd-degree tearing, so they had to stitch me up. But before that, I had to give birth to the placenta. I don't know, that's weird to say, like giving birth to the placenta, but that's basically what you're doing. You're like pushing it out, and that happened pretty quick. But it was, and it didn't really like hurt as much as I thought it would. One, because obviously I was stretched open from just giving birth to a 9 pounds 2 ounce baby, by the way. He was not supposed to be that big. Last visit they told me he was 7 pounds 6 ounces, guys. So 9 pounds and 2 ounces came out of me. Yeah, I gave birth to like a whole toddler, and he was 21 and a half centimeters long. So not fun. They're like attending to me, like I saw myself give birth to the placenta, and it's at the end of it, it's like black, and it's like this big, comes out of you, attached to like this weird like cord looking thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah. And then they stitch you up, and you don't necessarily feel it because of the epidural. Like I definitely would have felt it, and that's what I meant like for the afterbirth section. Like you would have felt it if you didn't get the epidural, like for sure. So it's just like you could feel that somebody's working on you, but you couldn't like feel it. Yeah, so put him on my chest after he was all good and settled, and I had like the mirror you can watch yourself give birth in. Like I had my sister bring it to me, and like he was so cute. He was actually looking at himself like in the mirror. I loved it. Like yeah, his eyes were like really open. Yeah, usually babies' eyes are closed, or so like I've heard, but like his eyes were open, and it was so cute. And he was just like laying on my chest, and we were doing like skin to skin time, and like honestly in that moment you knew it was worth it. Like all the pain that I just went through, like I knew it was worth it. That was my giving birth story. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any questions, just comment them down below. Maybe I'll do a Q&A soon. I will see you guys next week. Bye.